Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst, Great Malabite, Emmanuel Ifini. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning, Ruben.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr.
Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Vimba.
Good morning, Mr.
All Green, a proud member of the Niger Wives Association.
Absolutely.
You are representing.
Yes, sir.
Well, you are asking for an application from Aaron.
Yes.
Well, Aaron was the first person I ever signed paternity leave for.
Yes.
And I'm ready to sign another one.
Yes. You should be encouraged.
I'm Mr. Ike.
And the chronic bachelors
No.
should
Leave. We are talking of serious matter. Leave bachelor.
Ike now on too. He didn't do his application.
No.
He said he was waiting. When the money
Leave
came,
bachelors out of my conversation. Go and do what you have to do. Then I will discuss that.
Okay, Mr. Ifini. Okay.
Let's start the review with this Nigeria's newspaper of record. Now, we'll start with the story above the masthead. CBN approves fresh FX allocation to BDCs at lower rate. Slashes volume to $10,000 at 1,251 naira to the dollar. Peg sale to end users at not more than 1.5% above purchase price. Nasima hails Apex Bank for clearing FX backlog. Urgent step to address unmet requests. Orders by businesses. Well, the Central Bank of Nigeria approving another, of course, the second tranche of sale of foreign exchange to bureau de change operators to meet their demand for invisible transactions. And I hope the BDCs will stay within the range which the central bank has given them, 1.5% above the rate at which the central bank is selling to the BDCs. Well, with this, the central bank, of course, the NASIMA, the National Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industries, Mines and Agriculture, commending and hailing the central bank for clearing backlog. But of course, a number of manufacturers and businesses in the organized private sector still have unmet demands, which they have made Naira available to the banks. So we hope the CBN will take care of that as well. But with this rate at which the central bank is giving to the BDCs, well, there's improvement in the value of the Naira. We just hope this trend will continue. But more importantly, the gap between the NAFEM rate and the parallel market rate are closing very tight right now. So the central bank achieving one of the goals is set for itself at the beginning of this administration to harmonize the exchange rate between the parallel market and the official market. Now, the story just below the masthead, or the second lead, federal government, no ransom paid for release of Kaduna school children. Says, Gumi, not above law, can be reprimanded if found wanting. Army hands over 137 rescued kids to Sani. Of course, they handed over 131. 6 of those kids are still with the military in the hospital where they are receiving treatment. Governor regrets death of teacher in captivity. Yes, it's official file. No ransom was paid. That's the official position. And I don't think we should debate that. Even though the GOC, one div, Major General Mayoreso Saraso, while presenting the children to the governor yesterday, said, working under the direction of the Commander-in-Chief, that's the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the military used kinetic and non-kinetic measures to secure the release of these children. So, what constitutes the non-kinetic aspect of this effort? Well, we want to investigate that, but nothing to debate really. We just take the official position of the government, and for now we'll run with that until perhaps we have anything contrary to that information. Now, the lead story, Office of the National Security Advisor. Security agencies working with Interpol to apprehend fleeing Binance executive. Officers responsible for his custody arrested. Federal Inland Revenue Service files tax evasion charge against cryptocurrency company. Says Binance failed to register operations, collect, remit various taxes to Federation. We are collaborating with Nigerian authorities to quickly resolve issue. Company declares, my husband treated well, seemed comfortable, Binance executive wife told UK newspaper. Well, the Binance executive in the custody of the government, Nadeem Anjarwalla, well, yes, found his way out of custody and out of the country, as it were. Well, I hope those persons who have been arrested in connection with this embarrassing situation where somebody in the custody of the National Security Advisor's office has now found his way out of the country. Well, we just hope those who are involved will be sanctioned, with the Nigerian authorities working with Interpol, as we'll see in other newspapers. He will be brought back to answer for whatever a crime is alleged to have committed. The Punch newspaper has that story. Binance chief, federal government contacts Interpol, soldiers held over detainees escape. But the story below the photograph concerning the kidnapped children who have been released, the Punch newspaper is reporting Kaduna hosts freed pupils. 28 kidnapped in fresh attack. So the business of kidnapping and all the economy that goes with it still very well alive in Kaduna State. Just as the children were being released, of course, 4 persons were killed and 28 were kidnapped in fresh attack in Ungwan Saidu, Magajin Gari Ward in Beningwari local government area of Kaduna State. Kaduna State is still the hotbed of kidnapping. Just as one set have been released, another group of 28 kidnapped in the same Kaduna State. Now, the Vanguard newspaper, NSA launches global manhunt as Binance official flees custody. Below the photograph, Okwama killings. Let displaced villagers return home. Niger Delta leaders beg Tinubu. Well, I think the president needs to take a look and intervene in the plight of these innocent citizens who don't know anything about the killing of these soldiers in Okwama, who are suffering in the bush. They cannot access food, and this is a case of the innocent suffering because the military, they know the perpetrators, and that's why they are pursuing them all over the creeks. So innocent persons must not be allowed to continue to suffer because of what happened. And I hope the president will intervene and ensure that this person, whether in Okwama or in Ogroma in Bayelsa State, are allowed to have access to their means of livelihood and they can live normal life again. Now, the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, I will just take one story, 2 stories above the masthead. Again, El-Rufai meets SDP, APC, PDP stakeholders in Abuja. Shehu Gaban, Folari, Abubakar Gadak, Akinlabi, others in attendance. What is El-Rufai cooking? Of course, since it's been thrown into the cooler, one of those who worked very hard ahead of the presidential election for the installation of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, but he seemed to be in the cooler these days. And, well, he's been very busy holding meetings very recently. And the other day was cited as the SDP Secretariat. What is El-Rufai cooking ahead of 2027 Well, it will unfold in the fullness of time. Now, the other story there, impeachment, Edo CJ constitutes panel to probe Deputy Governor Philip Schwaibu. Yes, politically, when the impeachment machinery rolls, it doesn't stop until somebody bites the dust. That will just be the fate of Philip Schwaibu as it stands right now, unless something dramatic happens to change that tide. Now, the Business Day newspaper, money supply growth slows as CBN liquidity squeeze. Now, another story there, Nigeria's human capital at risk as bandits run riot. Now, the New Telegraph newspaper, if we look at just the story below the photograph, federal government sets up infrastructure development fund to bridge gaps as Federal Executive Council approves 1.26 trillion for roads, bridges. OK's 15 billion yen loan from Japan. Yes, the federal government collecting loans from here and there, all over the place. But we hope these loans are applied to productive ventures, and we can see the fruits of these loans. Taking loans, not the problem, but how these loans are deployed. Now, the Blueprint newspaper, just the lead story there. Our abductors fed us with bread and akara, never molested us. Yes, the children who were released recalling their experiences there. Now, the other story there, Senegal, ruling party candidate Ba, others accept defeat. Congratulate 42-year-old Faye. Well, a lot to learn from the Senegal experience. Nigeria has a lot to learn. Independent candidacy, something we should be talking about in this country that should be part of our electoral process. Because but for that, perhaps the sitting government will have squeezed the opposition out of that election. 42-year-old Faye, youngest elected president in Africa right now. Now, the Guardian newspaper, the Guardian of UK, Israel isolated after UN Security Council demands Gaza ceasefire. It must be a turning point, a vote for humanity to prevail. Riyad Mansour, Palestinian envoy to the United Nations. Well, Israel not happy that the US did not veto that vote. Well, Netanyahu has cancelled a scheduled meeting, but the world must stand up for what is right. The genocide going on in Gaza must be halted, and now. Will Israel obey that resolution? Ruben Rufai.
Well, I mean, already Israel has been isolated. The elected members, 10 of them, were the ones who came up with this fresh resolution after the draft by the US didn't fly. But looks like we have breaking news. The Francis Scott Key Bridge in the United States city of Baltimore has collapsed after a ship collided with it. Media reports said the vessel crashed into the bridge at about 1:30 a.m. and that's 5:30 a.m. GMT. Well, a very unfortunate incident there in the city of Baltimore. I recall, seeing this bridge many years ago.
The iconic Baltimore Bridge.
When I was an intern at, the Baltimore News, on the editorial board of the, Baltimore News. It just shows, the kind of, tragedy that we face as human beings at different times. But we don't have the details in terms of casualty. But that's the picture there. Ship colliding with the bridge.
For now, they're saying there are about 7 people who are believed to be in the water. However, they're calling it a developing mass casualty event, as 911 respondents are still coming to the scene and trying to establish how many people were on board the ship, how many people were on the bridge as at the time. And so it's still difficult to say until the first respondents get there, because this literally just happened.
I mean, very, very sad one. We just hope people are safe there. But obviously, Accident and Investigation Bureau will have to start, and we must be able to get to the end of this accident. Quite a sad one. But
well, I mean, I was earlier on also commenting on the isolation of Israel. Now, the delegation that Netanyahu cancelled was a delegation to go to the U.S. To discuss a military operation in Rafah. And the Americans have said, well, you know, it's unfortunate, but it's not as if they are against Israel. But it's a major pivotal moment. 5 months down the line, the UN Security Council finally arrived at a resolution. And there was no veto. The US had threatened to veto, the resolution, but then they chose to abstain. The major difference was that the resolution that was proposed by the United States was ambiguous because it was giving a condition,
for ceasefire.
Yeah, for the release of hostages. But in this particular case, the phrasing, the wording of the resolution is clearer. And it says immediate ceasefire in the month of Ramadan, leading, to the release of hostages. Of course, Israel is not happy with it. Hamas is happy with it, but that's international relations. Thank you very much, Emmanuel.